So you just got done. It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Or give Sal a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn. That's right. If you are traveling and you need a place to stay, don't stay any place other than a Holiday Inn property. And hey, listen, I can get you a deal. That's right. If you call our special toll-free number, which is 844-603-0364. You'll get a Billy C discount. That's 844-603-0364. Or, if you're like me, just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. You can't miss it. Staying at a Holiday Inn Express, you might come back the next morning thinking you're a doctor. I don't know. Holiday Inn Properties. And today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux. From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting this guy's story told. Listen, Molyneux is a piece of history, a piece of boxing history, a piece of black history. It's a true story. You got to read it. It's amazing. And the sad part is nobody even knows who he is today. And don't worry, we're still working on the movie. Coming up on the show, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Unforeseen absence from the show this week. And I feel terrible about it, but some things beyond my control prevented us from doing the show, so I apologize for that. Luckily, all of our affiliates, both TV and radio, all had shows to air, so everybody watching us or listening to us on the radio dial or on the television network scene, you guys got to see a show. But everybody watching live or playing on demand or a podcast or any of those other avenues that the show's available, well, you got a chance to do some other stuff. So, other stuff with the show, I hope. I hope you went back and maybe caught a show or two you missed. But coming up on the show today, a lot of stuff to talk about. As a matter of fact, we very well may go over our time. So I'll apologize in advance for that, for the networks. First up, I got updates on Manny Pacquiao. I got updates on Triple G. I got updates on the fights from the weekend. Adrian Broner. We got fight breakdowns and predictions for a bunch of fights that are coming up. But first, I'm going to start off with something that's really kind of bothers me. You're probably saying, well, everything bothers you, Billy C. No, not everything. Just some things. But this bothers me because, I hear a lot from people who who want clean sport. Everybody wants clean sport. And then you get these guys that might not be big names in our sport of boxing. And they're always in the forefront. Everybody's always hearing about them testing positive or doing something wrong and how the hammer comes down on them, right? Well, we had an opportunity for this sport of boxing to gain some integrity. And when a big name, big star, big draw, big, Canelo Alvarez gets popped for using performance-enhancing drugs, was he a man and admitted that he made a mistake? No, he denied it, okay? He couldn't deny the test results. The commission, who was in charge, Nevada State Athletic Commission, couldn't deny the test results, had to do something. The writing on the wall was that he was going to get suspended. So rather than stand and take it like a man, Canelo backs out of the fight with Triple G, walks away, goes and has some surgery done. Meanwhile, back at the Nevada State Athletic Commission ranch, they held a hearing the other day. And I thought that the Nevada State Athletic Commission was kind of doing the right thing. They hinted around that they were going to come down on Canelo. In my opinion, they slapped him on his wrist. They issued him a 6-month suspension, which is retroactive to the testing date in February. So this guy his suspension will be lifted in August, and miraculously he'll be ready to fight in September. Gutless, spineless piece of garbage, Nevada State Athletic Commission should have made a stronger statement than 6 months. As a matter of fact, Canelo didn't even show up for this meeting. He didn't even have the professionalism to sit there and face the consequences. He wasn't even there. Instead, he went and was back at home. Instead of suffering of a 6-month suspension, he goes and has some surgery done. He's planning on doing whatever, and he'll be ready to fight. You can guarantee that September. And who he fights, we'll have to see. Joining me now with his thoughts, Sal Rocky Senecola. What's your thoughts on the suspension handed down? 6 months.
Billy, you kind of called it that way, and you definitely said as far as being the retroactive kind of sentencing date. And, he's just going to take a break, skip a fight, and be ready for one in September. And, I think the Athletic Commission could have actually, as we suggested, maybe have made a strong statement, had the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, we're going to ban him for 1 year, we're going to suspend him. That's a lot. When you think about it, 6 months retroactively, yeah, that's a lot of time too. But to do a whole year, that's going to be 1 year missing out of a boxing, out of a career. And that could be one that's going to shake you up or do something. But for it being 6 months retroactive from the first date, like you suggested, it is just a slap on the wrist. And ironically, he'll probably be ready for the year anniversary from when he fought Triple G. And maybe they'll have a reunion at that month of September.
Well, the advantage is all. This is my point.
It's all to his advantage.
This is my point. That Canelo hasn't suffered at all. Canelo, the guilty party here, has somehow managed to come out of this unscathed. Fat Dan Rafael of ESPN claims that, in his opinion, he feels that the suspension was justified, that he got enough. I don't. I think it should be an automatic year. The consequences have to be strong enough to make a fighter and his team think twice about trying to get away with something. The worst part about this is Team Canelo maintains that they're victims, that they ate tainted meat, that they have never, not once, anyone involved with Canelo has come forward and said, hey, we screwed up. They're maintaining this. They're blaming everybody else. They're blaming the meat. They're blaming the fact that Nevada State Athletic Commission even suspended them. And here, meanwhile, the guy who was kind of parallel here, Triple G, he's getting ripped apart. He's getting ripped apart for wanting to continue to fight on that date. He's getting ripped apart by his opponent. He's getting ripped apart by sanctioning bodies that he has belts to, that want him to fight other people, etc., etc. And even the fans are starting to criticize the opponent that he's fighting against, Matisse. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke that the guy who's guilty is seemingly being protected and shielded from the people that are supposed to be protecting the sport from activities just like this. It's a year should have taken place. A suspension should have been a year, in my opinion. 6 months, especially. Let me tell you something. The worst part about it is when Canelo decides to go get his knee scoped. Yeah, that's like saying, you know what? Since I'm going to be suspended, I think I'm going to go on vacation for 4 or 5 months. I mean, this guy is not being penalized, in my opinion, anyway. 6 months. He wanted this fight in September anyway, Sal.
Well, isn't that ironic how it all happens? You know, Bill, I don't think we're going to find out anything different, but wouldn't it be ironic if this was all timed and all plotted and all just ironically worked out to exactly what he originally wanted to begin with? We said it when that fight took place. We said with the rematch, it'll probably, whatever Canelo's going to probably do to finagle the situation, watch, he's going to postpone the fight till about a year from now when Triple G is even older. And look at this. Isn't it the irony? This is unbelievable. And here we go. If they're going to be able to talk about a rematch, it's going to be not until a 1-year anniversary from the original fight.
It's a shame. It's a shame. And I maintain my opinion. I've reached out to Team Triple G over the last day or two. And listen, Triple G's team should not even consider the fight with Canelo in September. I know it is a lot of money being left on the table, but listen, he's going to make he's not going to make a decent payday. I'm talking about Triple G. He's not going to make a decent payday on May 5th, but if he goes and fights Billy Joe Saunders, he will. I would box out Canelo. What does Canelo have? Nothing. Canelo, who was the golden boy, so to speak, of the sport, all of a sudden seems to be a blemish. And I think that you have to make a stronger stand, and I feel that the Nevada State Athletic Commission was forced. They were forced against the wall to do something, and they decide to give him the minimum, which was 6 months. And the worst part about it is the commission voted unanimously. You didn't even have one person on that committee that had scruples and felt that Canelo should have been barred a little bit longer. I don't know, Sal. I don't know. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, personally.
Well, it does. I mean, and like I was suggesting, you know, we are going to look at round 13, pick up a year later, and it all works out to Canelo's advantage. I mean, we suggested that for some reason, shape or form, that this fight should take place sooner than later. May was a long enough period of time from last September. Come on, and now we're going to wait till an anniversary to see these guys. And you know what? Triple G is going to take the fight, and yes, he could probably fight Billy Joe Saunders and go off into the sunset, but this is going to be one of those things in boxing that people are going to talk. He's going to be damned if he does or damned if he doesn't. So he's got to go through, and he probably will do it in the fall. Maybe not September exactly, especially if he has something in mind with Billy Joe Saunders in August or something. But, it's going to be a tough one to avoid because this will always be something. Well, Triple G, after the suspension, he never wanted to fight him, and he didn't give him a chance. And it's going to be twisted. It's going to be the tale of the retape.
It won't. In my I don't. First of all, you're right. A lot of people will say that. But I don't see how they can. First of all, in most people's eyes, Triple G won the first fight. That's number one.
Yeah, eyes for damn sure.
Number two, to wait as long and to try to get away with cheating and to open up the door with the possibility that he's been cheating all along, and then you factor in what Triple G has said. Triple G, his main concern was to unify the division. So right now, Canelo doesn't fit into any part of unifying the division. The only way that Canelo fits into Triple G's future, in my opinion, and the obvious, is money. He's trying to get a big money fight. At some point in time, fighters that reach that plateau of greatness, or at least being, mentioned with other greats. There has to be a decision made. Why am I continuing? Am I continuing to pad my bank account, or am I continuing to pad my legacy? These are questions that a fighter and his team has to ask themselves. And in Triple G's case, he's made a lot of money. Obviously not as much as he could make if he fights Canelo again. But the legacy part is intact with one more victory, and that victory is Billy Joe Saunders. And the reason why I keep bringing that up, Sal, is simple. Saunders has the last belt that Triple G does not have. And he has said publicly, and most of the things that Triple G say, I believe, he seems like that kind of a guy. I've never met him personally, but he seems like a stand-up guy. And the truth of the matter is he had mentioned that he wanted to unify the division. So where does Canelo fit in? No, unify the division, then maybe fight Canelo if he chooses down the road. I think that it's time for Triple G to move into the driver's seat. Stop giving Canelo any kind of preference, and Canelo has to accept the fact he's not in the driver's seat, which he won't. That's why that rematch is going to be hard to make even at this point, Sal.
Well, it's a good point. You strike them all on the bullseye, and but the unspoken truth of the matter is this: it's gonna have to be, yes, he could possibly have a fight mid to late summer against Billy Joe Saunders. Even on the September anniversary of his fight with Canelo Alvarez would be a good time for him to fight Billy Joe Saunders. But there's going to be somewhere in the looming distant future that the unfinished business, the unsaid thing, yes, if Triple G can beat and does beat Billy Joe Saunders, maybe he should just retire, say, hey, this is what happened. I was all set. We all know the truth. We all know the story. And boom, go off into the sunset and retire. And but I don't think a fighter of Triple G's accomplishments and status can live with himself and not say, hey, because that's one thing a fighter does always believe, that he's the best, he can do it, and he has one more in him. So I think that Triple G will fight Canelo Alvarez probably in the fall or right before the end of the year. And winner take all the publicity, all the money, all this and that. But I do think I could see him trying to get that last belt from Billy Joe Saunders. But I don't think, Billy, that he can retire without going back into the ring, finish business, prove to the world that he won that first fight by slamming Canelo Alvarez and maybe punishing him and trying to beat him in a worse way. So that's what I really predict from what we'll see from Triple G. And whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, because I really don't like it. But the bottom line is, yes, fight Billy Joe Saunders, and sometime before the end of this year, he will fight Canelo Alvarez again, and either win, lose, or draw. He's gonna. Well, we don't want to see him lose, because I'd like to see him retire after he beats Canelo the second time, which I thought he won the first time.
The problem is that, and by the way, for all the affiliates, we are not taking a break here. We will be taking one at the half-hour point. The problem here, Sal, is age. And obviously, you're a guy that never wants to look at that. But
no,
the truth of the matter is that fighters age, and Triple G is aging. People could say, okay, 36 isn't that old anymore. I mean, we've done these blasts from the past where fighters have retired at 32, an old 32. Now there are even some fighters turning pro at 30. We're able to take care of our bodies better, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand that the age factor may not be as influential as it was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But the case with Triple G is he had this extensive amateur career. It wasn't like he hasn't fought for year after year after year for all these years. So, the truth of the matter is, and when he was fighting in the amateurs, remember, he's not fighting slugs. He's fighting world-class opposition. So there's mileage on Triple G. So Canelo has a big advantage with this suspension. At least when it's pertaining to Triple G. I think that this suspension is an advantage of sorts for Canelo. This was short of giving him no suspension, in my opinion. 6 months is not enough. If it was anyone else, I bet you that it would be a mandatory year, like most other fighters get.
Well, it's it's possible, and unfortunately, we're not going to see it right now. But I mean, you look at what they do with Pervekian. What did they do with this one? What did they do with that one? Was it just 6 months? Was it a year? Was it? It seems to be a benchmark custom to the fighter, his status, and what to expect. It should be a hardline slam across the board, and I don't think it's there yet. But a rule is a rule, but a law is the law. And, the laws you can't break. The rules you can bend, twist, and shape. But, that's why it needs to be a law in the books. Automatic 1 year suspension if you're ever caught doing something.
Yeah,
it's not going to...
What I was going to say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you see the difference is in boxing in the United States, it's subject to the commission that the fighters are fighting under. So it could be a year suspension for Commission A and a 6 month slap on the wrist for Commission B. That's one of the problems with having separate commissions. It's the Nevada State Athletic Commission needed to make a stand here. They didn't. They tried to appease everyone. They gave them a suspension so no one could say they didn't. They put off the fight so no one could say that they didn't. But in the long run, when you look at it, you look at the advantages and disadvantages of both fighters, and the best advantage for Triple G would have been to have, and you said this yourself after the fight, would have been to have the rematch in December. They had the first fight in September. They should have had the rematch in December. That would have been an advantage for Triple G. But no, once again, Canelo holds it up. No, I want to have it on Cinco de Mayo. So he puts it off another 9 months from the time that they had the fight. Then this happens, and it's put off another 6 months. So you're talking about a guy who is just getting an advantage with time. And the fact that the older fighter in Triple G has been inactive outside of the ring, that's a whole nother thing. And don't be surprised if Canelo turns around and says, I need a tune-up fight. I've been out of the ring for an hour. Listen, I'm telling you right now that this is going to Canelo's going to try to push to have this rematch in May of next year. And Triple G is going to hang around for the payday. That's why my point is that Triple G has to decide what's more important to him. I would think that he's got enough money financially to live very happily, him and his family and his grandkids, etc. I think he's already got that. So what's he want to do? Prove it to people who really shouldn't matter that he can beat Canelo, or pad his legacy? I think he's in the driver's seat. He needs to start steering the wheel. That's what I think.
Well, I think you're 100% correct, because basically, as you suggested, 36, I remember when I was fighting, and when you were 32, 33, you were an old man. You were either in the game to be an opponent, fodder, a journeyman, whatever it was. You weren't just rising or trying to attain a new career status at 33. That's the fight game when I was there. And the bottom line, the professional fight game. Bottom line is today it's a different era. But what you said is so true. Those are miles on a fighter. It's not just an age. And you see a 36-year-old thoroughbred like a Triple G who's had an extensive, successful amateur career. That's more miles on the body. That's more years added to the body. And again, he's had a couple good fights, tough fights, and the tough fights that they do age you. So, like, hypothetically speaking, Triple G, yeah, he's 36, and today it's only really a number in that regard. To see the miles and what's left in the tank after all these years, I think Triple G is the exception to the rule, Billy. He lives a clean life. He does what he has to do. I'm sure he's in shape pretty much all year round to turn around and fight within a couple good hard weeks of training. He doesn't look like he lets himself go binge or get out of shape that much. So maybe that's been a counter for why he can sustain another level of a career for another year or two. Do I want to see him fight into 2019? I would love to see him for his own protection, safety, and security. I would love to see him wrap it up this year and retire into the sunset, undefeated, fully with the accolades and the money that he can live the rest of his life and maybe do something behind a microphone or do something, whatever he could do in a fight game if he wants to stay close. But I tend to think we're going to see him not only fight Billy Joe Saunders, but I think that we're going to see a year-end fight with Canelo Alvarez.
I got to give a shout-out. My man Johnston just gave us a super chat in the chat room, and his shout-out is something like this. He says, breaking news, Wilder's missing. Where is he, Sal? Where is he, Sal? Johnston knows. Johnston knows the deal. Johnston knows that Sal's boy is all talk. Yeah, where is he? How come he hasn't offered a counteroffer? He's going to offer a counteroffer so late, and then as soon as that AJ is forced to fight Povetkin, then you're going to hear Deontay saying, he's talking to me, It's classic, Sal, and I can't believe that and obviously Johnston agrees with me, I can't believe you fell into it. I know you didn't fall into that. You're just giving him the credit for the punching power, but where is he? Where's this big mouth now? Where's the pound in the chest guy saying he's the best that everybody's scared of him? Where is he, Sal? Johnston wants to know, Sal. Where is he?
Johnston, I'll tell you what, I think you're going to hear from, I said it on the last show, we're going to hear it either today, tomorrow, Monday. We're going to hear that the fight is set. Here's the counter. Here's what's going on. I've got to believe that they are doing things about this fight right now that we are not being brought into the fold. And I believe that. I believe that.
You hope that. You hope that.
Yeah, I do. I do hope
because, the unfortunate is today's technology, which, let's admit, Sal, you're not exactly up on all of it. But today's technology, these guys are talking to each other. These guys are talking to each other every second. The promoters are reaching out, which I disagree with. And I do kind of agree with what Sal is alluding to. They should be discussing this deal behind closed doors. And whether they are or aren't, we really don't know. But what we do know is that there is a lot of social media rhetoric going on, and most of it's coming now from Team AJ saying, where's Deontay? Deontay, the only word that we ever heard from Team Deontay was that they were insulted with the $12.5 million offer, but they never, as far as I know, and as far as anybody has reported, they have never even reached out to Team AJ since then. And Eddie Hearn is actually going to be in New York for the Daniel Jacobs promotion, so we'll see what happens. But time, I kept telling everybody that the time is ticking away because of the WBA's pressure that they're putting on Anthony Joshua and his team to fight their mandatory, which is Alexander Povetkin. They are already well into the 30-day negotiation period. And like we talked about last show or last week or whatever, about the Russian promoter who will win that purse bid. You can rest assured. And I would think that Anthony Joshua would much rather defend all his belts in his home turf than going over to Russia, where some crazy things have happened. All you got to do is just look it up. Just look it up.
I know.
Speaking of Canelo and all the BS, it was made official the other day. Triple G is fighting Vanis Martirosyan. Triple G 37-0 with one draw, and that was against Canelo. 33 of his wins coming by knockout. Is taking on Martirosyan, 36-3 with a draw. Martirosyan is a tough fighter. A lot of people are not giving Triple G any credit. There was a lot of things involved with signing this fight. Number one, they had to pick a guy that could draw a little bit. They did move this fight from Vegas to the StubHub Center in California. Martirosyan does have a big fan base there, so that was one of the considerations. Also the money. the money wasn't being thrown around. They were very limited at what they could offer opponents because it went from HBO pay-per-view to HBO, and HBO's boxing budget has been slashed. I personally, Sal, and I know you and I have talked about this, I think Triple G should have not been so adamant about fighting on May 5th. I think he should have postponed maybe 1 month and go after Saunders. What this fight is going to do is going to keep him working for his May 5th date, but the Billy Joe Saunders fight is not happening, and if it does, it would happen around the time that Canelo would be available. So who knows the route that they're trying to take. The other little mix here is the IBF wanted Triple G to fight Deverenchenko, who was the mandatory, and it wasn't a sellable fight for the promotional team. So now we'll see what the IBF does in terms of their belt that Triple G has. It's hard to follow the bouncing boxing glove on this one, isn't it?
The belt and the glove, it sure is, Bill. And I'll tell you what. Oh, man, you map out a fighter's path. It's tough because there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of things that could take you off that path. But if you look at it, yeah, Triple G should get past Martirosyan on May. He was adamant about that date. We all know that because he could have postponed. He could have skipped it. But on this level, he is an older fighter, and he hasn't fought since last September. So I think it was important for him to go through the mechanics and the emotion of just getting up and ready for this fight on that date to give him another benchmark to see where he is in his career. And I think that this might be either the last year or definitely 2019 will be the last year that we're going to see Triple G in the ring. I really feel it's coming to the end, and it's just going to be a couple more fights. And if he could wrap it up with the Martirosyan, Billy Joe Saunders, and Canelo Alvarez, that'll be it. There'll be nothing else left to be said, and off into the sunset, and get on with his life with all the accolades and like I said, money that he should be able to enjoy the rest of his life.
It's a shame, but another boxing news I want to get here in the mix is Manny Pacquiao and Lucas Matisse signed, sealed, and delivered. They will be taking place July 14th in Malaysia. At their press conference, Manny Pacquiao says, "My time is not done yet. That's what I'm trying to prove. I don't have a prediction, but I will do my best to win convincingly. If I could have the chance to finish it right away, I will." Lucas Matisse says, "I'll die for the title if I have to. I'm going to defend this title till death." He's still very good, but he's not at the same level. Ever since the knockout loss Pacquiao suffered at the hands of Juan Manuel Marquez. We will see. And some other news on Manny Pacquiao. He has kind of backtracked on his on his Roach isn't in my corner thing. He's now saying he hasn't made a decision. Roach had went out publicly in the press and said, Manny and I had a great run. This is a quote from Freddie Roach. "Manny and I had a great run for 15 years, longer than most marriages last, and that's certainly a rarity in the sport of boxing. I wouldn't trade any of it inside the boxing ring and the political ring. I wish Manny nothing but the best. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was hurt that he didn't contact me personally about this decision, but great times we enjoyed together far outweigh that." And then, kind of as a response, Manny Pacquiao said that he didn't make a final decision. So, I don't know. Drama.
You know what?
With all of that.
It's never good when the media is covering your conversation you could have on the phone or at a face-to-face meeting. That's the sign right there, Bill.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we got the fight breakdowns and predictions. There's a bunch of fights we're going to do. Then I got some emails later. We got Dax Kahn coming on at 9 o'clock to give us his thoughts on the fights this weekend. A lot of fights this weekend. And I'm going to give you my breakdowns and predictions on those coming up here in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And some other news out. You know, Sergey Kovalev, both myself and Sal have been turned off by Sergey Kovalev, especially after his performance, specifically his second performance against Andre Ward. He was scheduled to fight Marcus Brown over the summer. And as of yesterday, they said that's not going to happen. Marcus Brown has been in some serious legal trouble, and Main Event's promoter, who's Sergey Kovalev's promoter, Kathy Duva. I love Kathy Duva. She didn't want to take a chance and have this guy, not be able to fight after all the promotions. So they kicked him to the curb, and it was agreed to that he will be fighting Elder Alvarez. Now, Alvarez is the same guy that Adonis Stevenson had avoided to fight. He's been the mandatory for the WBC in the light heavyweight division for quite some time. And a fight between Kovalev and him is a good one because many people think that Alvarez is one of the top 3 fighters in the division. So Sergey Kovalev is in a tough fight. Marcus Brown would have been a decent fight too, but I kind of like this one a little better. The fight is signed, sealed, and delivered. The date and location has not been announced yet. It should be in the summer, either July or August. It was originally planned for July 14th in Madison Square Garden, but at this point, we don't know where it is. But I like this fight, Kovalev against Alvarez, and even better, the co-main event is going to feature Dimitri Bivol against that ever-tough TBA. So I like this fight, and it sounds like it's going to be an interesting card, Sal.
Yes, it does. It should be. As long as they all stay away from tainted meat, it should come through as planned.
We have some fights scheduled for this weekend, and there's a lot of them. And I'm going to start breaking them down right now. I got several of them that I want to talk about. First one is one that I'm not going to get too deep into because I don't believe it's going to be a competitive fight. Former world champion Amir Khan returns to the ring for almost being out for almost 2 years. He's 5'8.5", 71-inch reach, 31-4 of his 4 losses. He's been stopped 3 times. His last fight was probably the most devastating knockout loss at the hands of Saul Canelo Alvarez on May 7th of 2016. Khan has not fought since then. He steps into the ring with a guy who I think, at the very least, should be classified, at the very best, should be classified as a journeyman fighter. And I know that term is used a lot. But Phil Greco, even though his record would indicate that he's better than a journeyman at 28-3, with 15 wins coming by knockout, and of his 3 losses being stopped only once. The thing is his 3 losses came in his last 6 fights. In his last 6 fights, he's 3 wins with 1 knockout and 3 losses. Every time he stepped up, he has kind of lost, with the exception of a stay busy fight that he was given in June of 2016 against Joseph Engel, and he lost a 10-round decision. He beats the guys that he should beat, but when he steps up big time in class. For example, Sean Porter, he lost a 10-round decision, but he did go 10 with Porter. He was knocked out by Errol Spence Jr., and, of course, he lost that decision I just mentioned against Engel. So every time he seemingly has stepped up, he's lost. He's ranked in the super welterweight division, junior middleweight, at 101. I honestly don't think that this fight is going to be too competitive, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm picking Amir Khan in this one. Sal, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Well, I'll tell you what. On paper, it looks like Amir Khan is definitely the A side. And, to get back on track, he's going to have to be the A side. Otherwise, this is just going to be another setback for him on his pathway to either a title shot or something else for big money. Phil Greco, on the other hand, yeah, as you suggest, I mean, he's maybe not quite titled the journeyman, but this is a do or die, make or break fight. I mean, it's going to be the pathway to where he's going to want to go and where he's going to see himself going. Khan should win, and he should have everything as expected. And Phil Greco, yeah, he's stepping up again, and will he be beat by Khan? As much as I'd like to maybe see him elongate his journey and win and beat Khan, I think this is going to be all Khan's night. So I do choose Amir Khan.
Before I get into these other fights, and we got a few of them, so we're going to try to fly through them before the top of the hour. My man Dave just reminded me, he's over in the Facebook simulcast. And several years ago, we did live shows outside of Graziano's at the International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend. And among the interviews that I had, I was doing, we were basically picking up guys that were walking by and doing interviews. Al Bernstein stopped by. I've worked with Al a couple of times, and we had a great interview. Steve Canton was another guy that a long-time friend of mine, plus he's done a lot for the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, but and he's had some fighters. He's got a gym. But we interviewed a young fighter that got on the show, Jimmy Quiet Storm Williams, and I remember the kid because he seemed so controlled at a young age. He was just starting out his career. He's very respectful. I really liked him. And my man Dave in the chat room on Facebook is reminding me that. First of all, you want to know if I remembered the Quiet Storm, and of course I did, and because he was a nice kid, he really was, and he's fighting tonight, so we want to give Jimmy Quiet Storm Williams a shout out. Good luck in your fight tonight, my man, and reach out to us, drop us an email. We'd love to have you on this show after your fight. So Dave, you know my email, hook them up. Next fight we're going to talk about here is the Nonito Donaire fight. Nonito Donaire is back in the ring, and he's taking on Carl Frampton in a very good. This is a good matchup that quietly has been flowing under the radar. As far as this fight goes, listen, Nonito Donaire, he's 35 years old now, which is again, we're talking about aging fighters, but normally in this division it's very rare to see a fighter continuing, but he is kind of preserved. He's ranked at number 10 in the world at featherweight. Obviously, he's former world champion. His record, 38 wins, 24 coming by knockout. His 4 losses, he was stopped once. That was by Nicholas Walters. He has gotten some decent wins, specifically several years ago. Raul Martez, Hernan Marquez, Fernando Montiel, Wilfredo Vasquez Jr., Jeffrey Matabula, Takeshi Nikashoka, Jorge Arce, Victor Chinian. Big names that Nonito Donaire has beaten, but he's lost to some big names too, like Gilmaro Rigondeaux, and Jesse Magladeno, and the knockout loss by Walters. A lot of people think his best days are behind him. Now, Carl Frampton, he's ranked at number 2 in the world at featherweight by the computer. I give these rankings by the computer. He's a former world champion, only been beaten once, and that was at the hands of Leo Santa Cruz. He does have wins against Horacio Garcia. That was his last fight. He did beat Santa Cruz once, Scott Quigg, Kiko Martinez a couple of times. He's 4 years younger and shorter than Nonito Donaire. He's ranked number 2, like I said. This is a tough fight to pick. I really believe it's a close fight, but I'm going with Carl Frampton. I think that Nonito Donaire's best days have been behind him. He's got other things going on, and I just have this funny feeling that if he was more viable to win this fight, we would have heard more about it. It's been flying under the radar. I'm picking Carl Frampton in this one. Sal, what's your thoughts?
Well, as for a multitude of reasons, again, I'm going to go with you and say that Carl Frampton is going to win this fight. I believe he's the A side. I believe he's the one in the future that they're going to look to showcase more than Nonito Donaire. So I do see Carl Frampton getting past and beating Nonito Donaire in this fight. So I choose Carl Frampton.
Yeah, I think that he's gonna come out on top on this one. The next fight that I'm gonna look at is actually a lot of. I think it's a huge fight for the heavyweight division. This is a division that we're all very into these days, and rightfully so. But this fight actually puts 2 fighters in the ring that are from the same place. They were both born in Sweden, and they're fighting each other. They're both undefeated. Granat has 1 loss. Adrian Granat going up against Otto Whalen. Now, Adrian Granat, like I just mentioned, has 1 loss. He's ranked number 45 in the world at heavyweight. He's 6'7.5". He will have a 2-inch advantage over his opponent, Otto Whalen. 15-1, 14 wins coming by knockout. His 1 loss, he was knocked out by Alexander Dimitrenko. He's beaten a lot of older guys. If you look on his resume, Michael Sproat, which is a good win, but he was old. Darnell Wilson. I will tell you this about Wilson. Yeah, he was old, But he knocked out Darnell Wilson, and that's not easy. Darnell Wilson is a hard guy to knock out. Trust me, I've called several of his fights, and he's a tough guy. Well past his prime now, but a very tough opponent. And another old guy in Danny Williams knocked him out. So, he's done well against older journeyman now type fighters, and the sacrificial lambs he's taken care of. The one halfway decent fighter that he fought, Alexander Dimitrenko, who incidentally was the same size as him, he was knocked out in the very first round. Now he steps in with Otto Wallen, who's 27 years old, 1 year older. He's ranked slightly higher in the heavyweight divisions at number 36. He's given up 2 inches. He's only 6'5.5", but he's a southpaw. He's 19-0 with 13 knockouts. When you look at his resume, same kind of opponents. He does have 2 wins over 2 very popular journeymen for the heavyweight division, Rafael Zambrano Love and Costa Jr., and he beat both of those by stoppage. So beat both of those fighters by stoppage. It's a tough one to pick. Grenette's been fighting, been training with the Kronk Gym, I believe. Otto Wallen is ranked by the WBA and WBF at number 12. It's a tough one to pick, but you know what? Southpaws always give, orthodox fighters trouble. And when I'm looking at a guy that's really been carefully moved and lost to the first time he stepped up, I'm leaning towards Otto Wallen in this fight. I'm picking Otto Wallen to beat Grenette in a what I think is going to be a pretty interesting fight. Sal, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Don't mistake that Otto Wallen is the A side, and he should win, and I think he will win. I think he, has been on a good path, and he is undefeated. I think they wanted to keep him undefeated, and I think it should be a good fight. We'll have some good competitive rounds, but I do pick Otto Wallen.
The next fight that I'm going to pick it starts with the 2 big fights that we will have here on U.S. television, regular U.S. television, not regular cable, Showtime. Gervonta Davis returns to the ring, and he's taking on Jesus Cuellar. And Gervonta Davis, former world champion, we all know the story. He busted onto the scene. I give him credit for a big win back in 2015 against Cristobal Cruz. You may look at his record and say, what are you talking about, Billy C? But Cristobal Cruz was a really good fighter that hung around too long. And when I saw Gervonta Davis take care of him in 3 rounds, I knew this kid was something special. He did follow that up with several more knockouts. As a matter of fact, all of his rest of his fights, he's 19-0 with 18 fights coming by knockout. The only guy to go to decision with him was Jermaine Murad back in 2014. But if you recall, he got his shot at a world title when he fought for the IBF junior lightweight title back in January of last year, and he beat Jose Pedraza, which was a very impressive win. He knocked him out in 7. But then his next fight, which was 4 months later against Leon Walsh, where he was making his first defense of that title, he lost his belt on the scale. He couldn't come in on weight, and he ended up winning the fight but losing his title. He knocked out Leon Walsh in the 3rd round. He did fight again in August of last year, knocking out Francisco Fonseca in a fight that he wasn't looking that great up until the stoppage. I think this guy's got a lot of talent. He's ranked at number 5 in the world by the computer at lightweight. He was taken under the wing, Floyd Mayweather, and, like Adrian Broner, he's kind of gotten out of the discipline part. So hopefully that has been corrected. He steps in the ring with Jesus Marcelo Andres Cuellar, who's a southpaw, hasn't fought in over a year, so he's not ranked. 5'6", so we got 2 southpaws going at it. That's always fun. He's 28-2, 21 by knockout, only 1 loss. One of his 2 losses is by stoppage. His last fight which was December of 2016. He lost a close split decision against Abner Mares, but he's got some impressive wins going back to 2013. Claudio Moraro, Rico Ramos, Juanma Lopez, Ruben Tamayo, Victor Chinian, and Jonathan Oquendo. This guy is no slouch of an opponent. I think it's going to be a true test for Gervonta Davis. I just think that Cuellar is a little older. He's been out of the ring. I'm picking Gervonta Davis, but I think that this is going to be a decent fight. What's your thoughts, Sal?
Well, I read the same tea leaves as you do there, Bill. I think it will be a competitive fight. I think it will be a good fight. I think there's going to be some good moments in this fight. But there's no mistake about it that Gervonta Davis is the A-side, and I think he will remain unbeaten. And I think as long as he gets on the scale correctly, I think he'll beat Cuellar as well.
The next fight I'm going to do, and the last one, is actually the Adrian Broner fight. We are. Let me just give you some. Apparently, Adrian Broner last night. At the press conference, he had some crazy comments. I'm not even going to get into his comments because they're just. This guy might have a screw loose. Nonetheless, he attacked Leonard Ellerby and all of this stuff. Made it clear that he's not part of Mayweather Promotions, by the way. But he steps in the ring, an important fight for him against Jesse Vargas. Jesse Vargas, a former world champion, lost his title to Manny Pacquiao, won the title against a current world champion against Saddam Ali. He's got some impressive wins on his resume: Antonio DeMarco, Saddam Ali, and Aaron Herrera in his last fight. His record: 28 wins, 10 coming by loss. 10 coming by knockout. Only 2 losses in which he wasn't stopped. And both of those fights, he went the distance with 2 world-class fighters, all-time greats. Both of them, in Timothy Bradley and Manny Pacquiao, went the distance with both of them. This fight is being fought at a catchweight. Jesse Vargas is big, way bigger at 5'10". He's got a 4-inch height advantage, but he's a natural welterweight. So really, he's going to be asked to come in on the scales tonight, only 3 pounds less than he normally does. Not so sure that that's going to be a big issue for him. Now he steps in with Adrian Broner. Unlike my main man Larry Hazard, I thought that Adrian Broner was a very talented and exciting fighter when he was a lightweight. I saw all kinds of potential with this kid, and then he was taken under the wing of the Floyd Mayweather and kind of thought that he was Floyd and went down the wrong path and hasn't corrected that ship. He keeps doing things. He's got some trials looming over him right now. I don't know what happened to this guy. He thinks that he's way better than he is. He's had some really good wins early in his career, specifically at lightweight. Big names. Gavin Rees he beat. Marcus Maidana he lost to. Paulie Malignaggi he beat in a very controversial fashion. Of late, many people remember the Sean Porter fight. He lost a 12-round decision to him. His last fight was against Mikey Garcia. He lost a 12-round decision. He was battered by Mikey Garcia most of the fight. Adrian Granados, he beat him, but it was another controversial split decision victory. Like I said, this fight's being fought at a catchweight. Adrian Broner is ranked number 6 at super lightweight, which is junior welterweight. Jesse Vargas ranked at number 6 at welterweight. The fight being fought at a catchweight of 144, which is technically a welterweight fight. Adrian Broner, although was a former welterweight champ, doesn't look... he says he's had the best training camp of his career. I think that he's more talented than Jesse Vargas, but of late he hasn't thrown enough punches. I think Jesse Vargas is going to beat him. Jesse Vargas is a slight favorite in Vegas. And as much as I think that Adrian Broner, and don't get me wrong, if Adrian Broner comes out and starts displaying the style that he had, as a lightweight before he really incorporated his so-called shoulder roll defense, he's going to beat Jesse Vargas. But if he comes out, trying to handpick, throw a few punches one at a time and kind of stand there in the pocket and not do much, Jesse Vargas will win. I'm officially picking Vargas to win this fight. What's your thoughts, Sal?
Guess we're going to be unanimous across the board because, I see, when you have looming things, impending things over your shoulder sometimes, you think you're going through the motions, you think you're training, you think you're fighting, and you are. But, it takes its toll, too. And he hasn't stayed on the pathway as a normal, healthy, undaunted fighter could be doing as he should be doing. But I think a lot of these things are going to be coming into the ring with him, and I think he's going to do his best to try and make it competitive in a fight. I think Jesse Vargas is going to come out the victor. I think in the end it's going to be a Vargas night.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems that Broner should win, but
it seems like he should. He should. On paper, it looks like this is a good fight for him. I don't know if he can rise to the occasion with everything that he's been through of late. We'll see. I mean, maybe he can put it in a box and put it away, and the distractions have not affected his training or anything else, that his spirit and his focus and everything else. And if that's the case, then he should be a little more dominant. But I think he's aged in a ring with all the rhetoric and all the stuff around him. So I think Vargas has a good opportunity here.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think that if Vargas wins, that could very well spell the end for Adrian Broner. He certainly has a lot of issues going on outside of the ring, and I don't know. I'm all for guys that make mistakes, no matter how bad they are, and then they realize that it was a mistake and that they were responsible for it and that they own up to it and they make a turnaround. I have no respect for people that, make a mistake and then never own up to it. Never look in the mirror and say, okay, what can I do to change the situation or whatever. And Adrian Broner is one of those guys. Adrian Broner is a guy that, has really, he came onto the scene and he had all this potential and he had a lot of confidence in himself. And then when he started failing, he had the opportunity to right the ship. He had the opportunity to go back in there and correct what was wrong, but he didn't. He magnified what was wrong, and he tried to just continue with it. Now, you can make an argument and say, that's just his style of promotion, similar to Deontay Wilder, who's loud and brash and pounded on his chest as well. But at the end of the day, at least Deontay Wilder has come into the ring and taken care of business. We could be critical of him all we want about level of opposition and being limited and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. And Deontay Wilder's undefeated, winning all of his fights but one by knockout. Adrian Broner can't say that. I know they're in totally different weight classes, but I'm just using the self-promotion tactics as a parallel because they're kind of similar. In this case, Vargas is a blue-collar fighter, and he's going to come to listen, it's going to be an interesting fight. Vargas is a tough guy, and if Broner's not 100%, he's not going to come out and win. The one fight that I did not even pick, just so everybody knows, is the Jermall Charlo against Hugo Centeno. That's the third fight of the triple header that will be shown on Showtime tomorrow night, which I will be giving you our post-fight thoughts on that Monday morning. But the fight, Charlo is a 3,500 to 1 favorite in Vegas. You got to lay $3,500 to win 100. So I don't even want to pick the fight because I think the result is already made. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have Dax Kahn join us to get his thoughts on some of these fights for the weekend. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology used to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative three-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Cuellar, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the banks scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-1673. 800-624-1673.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget to swing by Monday morning when we do our post-fight show on all of the big fights from this weekend. But Foyce joining us now to get his thoughts on the fights this weekend is my man Dax Kahn. Good morning, Dax.
Morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Still waiting for the weather to break, but I'm doing wonderful today, my man. Some big fights this weekend. First, I want to throw one at you. that wasn't on our big list anyway here in the States, the fights on TV, but the heavyweight fight between Otto Wallen and Adrian Granat, it seems like that is going to be, and this is why I love these fighters from outside the U.S., because they fight each other sooner than later. And I think it gives you a good gauge on who needs to improve and who's legit. How do you see this fight going? They seem to match up pretty well.
They do match up pretty well, actually. How it's going to go, I really don't know. I really don't know. And this is a division right now that, because of it's rebuilding, you really don't know what to think of anybody. It's generally, as in boxing, you're only as good as your last fight. Whoever the winner is here, obviously they're going to take one step closer into getting into that mix. Whoever the loser is here, there's still regionally they're going to be a name. So it's an interesting fight. The division is building. Unfortunately, right now, when it comes to that division, there's only like 4 or 5 guys that we really concentrate on. So, if I had to give something, I would give the edge to Wallen.
Yeah, I'm picking Wallen too, and so is Sal. So let's get into it. Amir Khan is fighting Phil Greco. What's your thoughts?
Amir Khan coming in off a 2-year layoff since the knockout loss to Alvarez. Greco himself, he fought in 2017. He doesn't fight more than once a year. He's lost every step-up bout. Errol Spence stopped him in 3 rounds. Sean Porter defeated him by virtually a shutout, 100-88 twice. I think 98-89, and that was in 2016. Then he loses to a fringe contender prospect, at least at the time, Joseph Valengo. So unless Phil Greco catches Khan early, Khan comes in over confident, more or less like a Bradis Prescott type situation. I think even with a 2-year layoff, the speed and talent difference is going to be too much of a difference for Greco to overcome. So Amir Khan should win this rather easily.
Another fight that I wanted to ask you about, Carl Frampton is fighting Nonito Donaire. It's an interesting fight, and Donaire was such a talented fighter, but inactivity and maybe he's fighting too big. I don't know, but how do you see this one going?
Which fight are we on now?
Carl Frampton against Nonito.
Okay, all right. I had them listed different. I'm sorry. Nonito Donaire, since his 2014 stoppage loss to Nicholas Walters, has really taken a step down in competition. Despite winning that WBO Super Bantamweight title against Cesar Juarez in 2015, he makes 1 defense. He loses to Jesse Magdaliano. And then in 2016, Jesse, a solid fighter, but remember, Nonito Donaire, not long before that, or not long before the Nicholas Walters fight, was a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. So those names would have been opponents for him. Frampton, he's still one of the best in the sport. He has 1 loss, that majority decision to Leo Santa Cruz. The Donaire's 35, Frampton's 31. Neither one is actually prime for this weight class. Donaire's only had 1 fight at the featherweight limit, and that was his last fight. Frampton is comfortable there. He still possesses the speed, the power punching. I think he has the volume punching. I think he has a power advantage in this. Donaire's most dangerous when he's a counter puncher, but you know what? Does he have featherweight power that can bother Frampton? I don't think so. So I think Frampton should win this comfortably.
The next fight I wanted to ask you. We're getting some bad stuff from Sal's line here. Sal, we're gonna have to get back to you here in a minute. Anyway, Sal, we'll get him back on in a sec. He's got, I don't know what he's doing over there, but the next fight, I'm not even going to ask you about the Charles Centeno fight. I don't even want to hear about it because it's such a joke of a fight, in my opinion. The odds makers are even 3,500 to 1 is Charlo. That's terrible. And as good as they seem, the Charlo brothers really, these are the kinds of fights they're always in. Anyway, let's talk about the 2 bigger fights this weekend. Let's start off with Gervonta Davis against Jesus Cuellar. It's for WBAs, and I know you love this. I know that you vote for these titles all the time, Dax.
Regular.
It's their regular.
Regular.
It's their regular. Not to be confused with the super. Not to be confused with the interim. Not to be confused with the champion of Muay Thai or champion in recess. It's just their regular old world title. Gervonta Davis against Jesus Cuellar. How's it going to go?
It might be a regular fight. I don't know. Gervonta Davis actually in the press conference. I'm not a big fan of Gervonta Davis. I haven't been, especially after some of his recent social media comments about a few people. We're not going to get into. He's young. He's undefeated. He's talented, but he seems more like the next Adrian Broner than anything. He has a genuine attitude problem. He did sound a little bit more humble. He looked very well conditioned. He didn't have any baby fat on him at the press conference. He spoke well. So I think that Cuellar, he's a guy that runs hot and cold. You mentioned that before. He's going to pressure Davis. Davis is a stationary fighter. He does his best work as a counterpuncher. I'm having a hard time making my choice here, but considering Davis does look in spectacular shape, and considering Cuellar has been stopped before, he's been outboxed before, I think Davis, as long as he's really in shape and as long as he is doing what he says, he should win this fight. And then, after this, they're going to have to make a decision with this kid, in my opinion, because super featherweight isn't the division for him. He's going to have to either step up or, I see this kid more or less being yesterday's news. He did spend the time in camp with Adrian Broner, so I really don't know what to make of this kid right now. I just look at him more as one of those, as you say, a Charlo. I look at him more or less as one of these PBC fighters that, he's talented, but his fights are carefully picked. He's making the money, but, he's not one of those guys that you're going to sit there in 2 or 3 years and say, you know what? Remember this fight with Gervonta Davis, or you know what? Look who's still sitting on top. So, it's, to me, Bill, as much as an insult as it sounds, Gervonta Davis fight, more or less, it's kind of a fill-in fight for me.
The funny thing is, it's a shame before we get to the last fight here, Gervonta Davis and Adrian Broner, in my opinion, I know a lot of people, specifically Larry Hazard has said it many, many times to me about Adrian Broner. They didn't think he was as talented as I thought he was when he busted onto the scene. But I see a lot of similarities with Gervonta Davis. Both of these guys are extremely talented. But like you mentioned, the attitude is an important part of the sport of boxing. And every fighter has to be confident. But I think there has to be a line drawn. And there also has to be let's come down to earth after something catastrophic happens. And that has happened in both of these guys' boxing careers. Adrian Broner, of course, and Gervonta Davis. To me, the catastrophic incident was him losing his title on the scale. That was his first title defense. That's not a good sign. Now, people can make he's so young, he was having trouble making the weight. Well, then don't even fight in that weight class. You shouldn't even be in it to begin with. Anyway.
He did address that yesterday. That's what I mean. I did like what he said yesterday. He did address that and admitted that he didn't train hard. He took it for granted and those type things. So, we sound a little bit more mature.
But you know
again,
what?
Bill,
but you know what?
Thing in this thing is
Dax,
history. We always talk about the history of the sport, Bill.
The thing is, though, Dax, you can accept that. Not that you want to accept it from any fighter, okay? Because discipline is so important in this sport. But a young fighter, to say he took a fight lightly, the guys that have been around the block that take a fight lightly, those guys are the ones you can almost say, okay, he didn't train hard. But a young fighter, this guy was fresh out of the gate. He should have been with the attitude of no one's ever going to take my title away. That title should have been more valuable to him to not take an opponent lightly. That's you know what I'm saying?
My point is, I was going to use Mike Tyson as an example. Mike, when he came out of the gate, he was such a hungry young fighter. He was going through all these guys. He was so critical of himself. He always tried to improve. He was a historian. He paid attention to these past fighters. He really wanted to be the best. It wasn't until he actually accomplished something and he got his original team went away from him. He got those yes men in his ear. Did Mike all of a sudden just go into the ring out of shape and thinking he was going to take everybody out with one punch? And it seems, just the opposite here. Like you're saying, as a young fighter coming out of the gate, gate, you should have that same mindset. Instead, they're coming out of that gate and they already have the mindset that, they get a couple wins and now all of a sudden I can do that with everybody. It's like, so it's then later on, it's like, okay, I've made so many mistakes. Now it's time for me to change my career around. Boxing is a business. That seems to be the thing that fighters are saying, more and more. And, it is exactly true. And it's great that fighters recognize the fact boxing is a business. But, you also have to recognize the fact that you're only as good as your last fight. And when it comes to that business, you're only as marketable as you sell yourself inside that ring. But how you sell yourself outside that ring, is a different story. So when you're losing titles on scales at such a young age and you're going in there and you're taking that punishment, you've lost your marketability, and now all of a sudden you got yourself 30, 35 fights and you're already washed up even before you've hit your prime. And, that's a problem in the sport, and it just seems to be a growing problem in the sport.
So what's your official pick on the Adrian Broner-Jesse Vargas fight?
Adrian Broner, another guy, you mentioned earlier, the mindset. He comes out yesterday. He goes off on Leonard Ellerby. He talks about how everybody around him doesn't want him to succeed. They don't want him to drive the Rolls Royces. He's looked mediocre in his last few fights. He was literally a showcase opponent for Mikey Garcia. Only the sturdy chin of Broner allowed him to go the distance. Jesse Vargas is not a great fighter, but he is a two-division champion. He only lost to Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley. The Pacquiao knockdown was a flash knockdown. Both Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley were in the top 5 or at worst top 10 pound for pound at the time they fought him. So I don't think, Jesse Vargas should be overlooked. I think Vargas is going to outbox Broner, who, of course, is more than likely going to sit there on the ropes, try and counter very much like he did against Sean Porter or, most of his opponents. If the power hasn't carried up to him, he's going to come in there a little bit overconfident. And Jesse Vargas, as you mentioned before, he's a bring your lunch pail to work type fighter, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. He's going to bring his lunch pail to work, and he's going to be the one walking away eating bigger in his next payday.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, if somebody asked me this, prior, like a year or two ago, I wouldn't even give Jesse Vargas a chance against Adrian Broner. But now, Adrian Broner's got a lot to prove, and he could do it tomorrow night. You know what I mean?
The Paulie Malignaggi fight put it all on the wall for me with Adrian Broner. He won the fight, yes. Paulie, a very talented fighter. No power, a lot of hand speed. He won all his big fights based off the jab. He always had a very solid chin at his best. Adrian Broner had so much trouble. Paulie was able to hit him so easily, and Adrian hesitated, letting his hands go, and he's done that continuously since then. I don't know if he thinks he has more power than what he does, but Adrian Broner pretty much capped out at 135 pounds. I'd say he even capped out at super featherweight, and 135 pounds he was world class, but he wasn't exactly elite. So, I just think these divisions are too big for Adrian Broner. I think Adrian Broner's head's a little bit too big for him. And, if he keeps going this way, he's just going to end up a cliche, a guy that could have, should have, would have, but didn't.
Good point. Dax, I appreciate your time, and we look forward to your Monday's thoughts on the fights that take place this weekend, my man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your weekend. And just a note, Bill, Sal, everybody out there, if you're staying up late at night wondering how you can get in here, join the show, go on there, come up with crazy names, and sit there and think of how you can come up with different ways to say Dax or Sal or Bill, something, and your kids don't look like you, there's a problem, there's something going on. Get your head together. Maybe, the next kid your old woman has, might look like you, and you may not be out there on Facebook, or you may not be out there in chat rooms sitting there, wasting all your time there and blaming it on the pub. Or, if you're in the pub and you're doing that, maybe it's time, to get some sort of 12-step program. Just my friendly service public announcement.
We're going to correct that issue, Dax. I hear you. So,
all right, everybody, enjoy the weekend.
I'll talk to you later. That's Dax Kahn giving us his thoughts on the fights for this weekend. We've been out of we haven't done the show in a couple of days. My fault. So as a result, for all the affiliates out there, I'm not taking another break today. But we do have some emails that I wanted to get to here in a second. One thing I do want to mention real quickly, Bryant Jennings is fighting next weekend in Philly. and he's going up against Joey DeWedgeko. Bryant Jennings at one time I thought was a top heavyweight contender. He fought and did well against a lot of good fighters, beat a lot of good fighters. His last big fight was a savage knockout loss to Luis Ortiz. He, was out of the ring for a while. They re-signed him. They're carefully moving him now. This is one of those carefully moved fights against Joey DeWedgeko. Both fighters are from Philly. It's taking place in Philly. It ought to be a throwback fight. So we'll talk about that one next week. But right now, we got some emails, and I got Sal back, and we will get into these right now. This first one is from my man Sean, and he says, hey, Billy C., this is Sean from New Jersey. I will be at the Broner-Vargas fight this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Broner can do against a tough five-fighter Vargas. A tough live fighter in Vargas. Do you think, my eyesight's going, do you think Broner would benefit from training with the likes of Floyd Sr. or Jeff Mayweather in his corner, since many boxing fans believe his fighting style is similar to Floyd Jr.? In my opinion, this is Sean, I believe with their experience and command of their training camps, as well as the familiarity with Floyd Jr.'s technical fighting style, it would be a great combination. Do you think either one of these trainers can steer Broner into being more focused and grounded in the sport, where they can get 100% out of Broner, while his current trainers can't seem to get the best out of him on fight night? First of all, if you remember, Sean, Adrian Broner kind of looked up to Floyd and was trying to model himself behind Floyd, but he went all askew. I think that, so often do fighters, especially established fighters, will turn around and blame the trainer or something else. Again, not being held accountable for their own issues. And I think that Adrian Broner is a prime example of this. I think it has to start with him. He's got to be willing to listen. One thing always sticks in my mind about Adrian Broner. When he fought Marcus, what are you huffing and puffing in there, Sal? You know what? My mic, I got to adjust it lower. You got to adjust it. I got to mute you here because I can't. But the truth of the matter is that when Adrian Broner fought Marcus Maidana, Marcus Maidana was basically beating the hell out of him. And he went back to his corner. This is Broner. And there was chaos in his corner because his corner became proficient in listening to Adrian Broner run the show. They really didn't have any instruction for the guy. And Adrian Broner at that time impressed me because he became calm, cool, and collective. That Adrian Broner doesn't exist anymore. And I think that once he can be receptive to listening to a trainer who can actually give him some, advice that is worth listening to, I think that he could come out of this issue. But I think this weekend is going to be a big telltale. I think that Adrian Broner thinks a lot more of himself, and he's not putting the work in. We're only as good as what we put in. What's the old saying my dad used to say? You're only as good as what you put in, or something along those lines. What's your thoughts on the email, Sal?
Well, I tend to look at it or hear it, and Adrian Broner, he's got some big things to prove this weekend, and I think he's got a big chance to step up and right the ship. And hopefully, he could do that. Otherwise, I think he's going to continue on a slippery slope downwards and, be a non-entity in a fight game in another year or so. So I think he can correct the ship. He's got the talent. He's got the skill. He's got the ability. But he's got to, as we suggested, just keep his head on straight and keep on the right pathway and not be too deterred by the noise and the rhetoric and all the other stuff that his life seems to attract. And hopefully he'll realize what he's got on the line to lose and we'll see a different Adrian Broner.
Well, I personally don't think
I don't know if he could do it, though. I don't think he could do it.
I don't think we're ever going to see a different Adrian Broner in terms of the guy, but we could see a old Adrian Broner, meaning the old talented Adrian Broner. I think that he needs to get back to what he did and not try to emulate what others do. But anyway,
good point.
We got another email. This one's from my man Johnston, the only one that put his money where his mouth is today in the super chat, which I appreciate. This is AJ taps up. His subject is taps up WK, and he's got. Here we go. Now Johnston just gave us another. You see what? I think I'm going to make him a dependent. He's supporting the show. Johnston Brown, another super chat. He wants to give a shout out to his beautiful wife and handsome son. He wants a come on to your Lions. Big game tonight. He's talking about his soccer team, so good for him. Johnston hooking us up. But as we and more from Johnston as we read his email here, Sal. He says, "Hey guys, AJ will be seeking knowledge from Vladimir Klitschko to help him become a better fighter and undisputed heavyweight champion." That's what the WK stands for, Vladimir Klitschko. These are quotes from Anthony Joshua. He says, "If Klitschko gave me a little bit of his knowledge, I think it'll spur me on to be a better than I project myself." He says, "I need him on my side. Definitely need him. I have so much respect for him. His brain is a boxing cyclopedia. I will always look at Klitschko, even though I beat him, as the better man because he's done more and accomplished more than I have. Even though I beat him that night in terms of his overall career, he's done so much. I will always take my hat off to him and respect him. His brain is a boxing encyclopedia. I will always look at him." I keep reading the same thing. He says that's phenomenal. You know what? It's not me. Johnston printed it twice. Thanks, buddy. He says that's phenomenal. He must have learned so much. When you fall, then you go again. Then you fall. When you fail, then you go again. Then you fail, then you go again. He built himself to perfection. He's referring to the losses that Vladimir did have. Eddie Hearn, talking about Deontay Wilder, says, "I'm going back to meet with Wilder's representatives in New York. We're trying to get a face-to-face with them, look into the whites of their eyes, and just see if we can make a deal. We've made an offer that we felt was substantial. If we're not happy to talk about the numbers and look at their ideas as well." He says, on Fury's return, and Wilder, he says, "Hey, when you're a fighter and you can let certain things slide, even though it's professional, I don't want to bite back. Sometimes you need to meet them face to face." This is Joshua talking about Wilder. We did talk about that, but it clearly seems. Thanks for the email and updates, Johnson. It clearly seems, at least by Eddie Hearn's point of view, and all of the reports that I've seen, that Team AJ is really trying to make this fight, and uncharacteristically of Deontay the loudmouth, there's been crickets coming from that team. Maybe they really don't want the fight, Sal.
Well, that's interesting that you should say that. I don't want to believe that, and I do want to believe that there's more going on than what you and I have been privy to. And like I said, I hope next week we hear something from either side, or one side or both sides. I just want to hear something, like a lot of people. Right now, the crickets aren't doing it. So, let's hope that they're doing things behind the scenes and off the record. And we're going to have a big announcement next week. It's going to be signed, sealed, and delivered. That's all I could hope for.
Yeah, well, keep hoping. Finally, I got one last email. This is from my man, Mitch. He says, "Hey, Billy C., some interesting challenges face Anthony Joshua. First, it's getting Wilder to ink his name on a 2-fight deal. Even with a loss, the least he's going to get appears to be $25 million for 2 fights. This is based on, and this is Mitch just basing it on what was offered, 12.5 for the first fight that Wilder has not accepted, and assuming that that was for the same for the second fight. Now, we all agree that he's going to make more for the first fight, and he's certainly going to make more for the second. But I understand Mitch's point here that we're talking about $25 million for 2 fights, right? He says the clock is ticking. To be honest, it'll be the highest. This is interesting, and he's right. He says, to be honest, it'll be the highest Al Heyman fighter, with the exception of Floyd Mayweather Jr., earned for 1 fight. And this is 100% true. He says there's the Russian billionaire, Andrei Rabininsky, who I've referred to on this show, who's been tied to Povetkin in the past. If Wilder keeps playing around, they're going to try to make the Povetkin fight. If Joshua Povetkin goes to purse bid, AJ better pack his bags for Russia, because that guy will outbid Hearn by a mile. For example, Klitschko versus Povetkin, Sarlin submitted a bid of $6 million and change. K2 submitted a bill of $7 million, a bid of $7 million and change, and they both lost. Why? Because Rabinski put in a bid of $23 million and change. Vladimir got almost $17.5 million for that fight. Povetkin almost $6 million. It's going to be interesting if it goes to purse bid, because it's a guessing game after that. Hearn would have to strategically come up with a number to beat the billionaire and vice versa. The fighters win in both instances, but to be honest, not many people want to see Anthony Joshua go to Russia to defend his belts. If I hear he fights Povetkin, AJ will bring in Povetkin's former opponent, whose neck they took 25 minutes to fix, as a sparring partner. One thing, while AJ and Wilder is the fight everyone wants to see, the biggest fight in boxing will be Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, if Fury wins his fight in June. Wilder better be careful. Good
points.
It's 100% true. Thanks, Mitch.
100.
It's 100% true, because the truth of the matter is, and I've said this time and time again, Anthony Joshua has all these options. Mitch points out not only does he have the Deontay Wilder option, but if Deontay doesn't sign, Anthony Joshua moves on. He's got the mandatory with Povetkin. He's got a mega fight with Tyson Fury. He's got another potential mega fight with Dillian White. He could possibly have a rematch with Joseph Parker. He's got the Jarrell Baby Miller, even though Miller doesn't deserve to be in any championship fight. He's got that fight. There's so many options for Anthony Joshua. Now, you could sit there and say, well, hey, Bill, Deontay Wilder has options too. And I would say, who? What are his options? Because we're talking about prize fighting. Just like you always say, Sal, we're talking about prize fighting. And the object is to fight a substantial fight and make the most possible money you can make. Anthony Joshua is in a position, because of his popularity, and because he's got a promoter willing to open up the checkbook, and because he's got fans that are willing to 90,000 of them go sit in a stadium and watch him. He's got all of this going for him. He's got options. Plus, he's got some domestic rivals that'll, knock the roof off a house to come and watch the fight with the Tyson Fury fight, should he be victorious in June. Deontay Wilder doesn't have those options. He's got what? Who could he fight? He could fight Dillian White, maybe. He could fight, Miller if he wanted to. Maybe a Bryant Jennings if he wins. All these fights. I'm not saying they wouldn't be good fights for Deontay, but they're certainly not going to make him the money. I pose the same question, Sal. How many fights does Deontay Wilder have to fight to make what he could make in one fight with Anthony Joshua? It makes no sense for him to pussyfoot around, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, Bill, I wish I could look at it a different way, and but black and white right now, it just looks like he's got to pull that trigger. He's got to, and I'm Deontay Wilder, please, Deontay, let's hear from you. Like I said all along, I think that this is big enough for their two camps to be behind closed doors and knocking it out. And I'm hoping that's what's being done. And I think, hey, look at it. It adds to some of the drama of this fight, the anticipation and the creation of this fight. So I just hope that we're going to hear very shortly, very soon, over the next couple of days, that this fight has been signed, sealed, and delivered. Because as you suggested, he's got it's the best move he can make right now in his career. And that's to take this fight with Anthony Joshua and realize that he's going to make an easy $25-30 million over a 2-fight period, where normally it might take another 10 fights for him to do that. So I think he knows in the realm of things that this is the right way to go and to do and to move his career. And I want to say that I think his camp should realize it too. And that's why I'm so adamant in saying that it's going to just be one day we're going to wake up very shortly and it's going to say, hey, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder is signed, and we're going to see it soon. That's it.
You know, Sal, a lot of the people that watch and listen to this show obviously know that you and I totally disagree when it comes to Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And by the sounds of it, you are grasping at straws to try and hope that your boy comes through. So I pose one question to you, simple question, all right? And don't get me wrong, I'm with you. I want to see the fight. It's not like I don't want to see the fight. But let me ask you this. If Deontay Wilder, your boy, if Deontay Wilder, your guy who you think is going to beat Anthony Joshua, if Deontay Wilder does not even come up or allegedly come up with a counteroffer, and they keep dragging their feet, whether they're actively meeting behind closed doors or not, and they don't get a fight signed by Wednesday of next week, because that is the cutoff in my eyes. Being involved in this business for as long as I have, in all the different aspects of this business that I have, I see the cutoff date being around Wednesday of next week, before Team AJ has to shift gears 100% and start working on a deal to fight Povetkin, because they don't want that fight to go to purse bid, just for the reasons that Mitch mentioned and the same reasons that I had said previously. So with that said, my question to you is this, Sal. If Deontay Wilder does not step up and take this fight right now, this next fight with Anthony Joshua, forget about the money, because we could be at a standstill if Wilder's team thinks he deserves $25 million and he's only offered 16. I think that the number, personally, my prediction is, I think that the number, and I've been telling everybody this that emails me, the number that they're going to agree on for the first fight is going to be $16 million. That number is etched in my mind. Don't ask me why, but I have a feeling that Deontay will sign for $16 million straight up.
Me too.
But in any event, my question, which I'm trying to get to, but I can't seem to get it out. It's simply this. Yeah. It's simply this. If Deontay Wilder doesn't sign to fight him in the next fight, in your opinion, is Deontay Wilder ducking Anthony Joshua?
No, like I said, I am a Deontay Wilder fan. I will admit that, and I will be very, very disappointed if he loses his opportunity, and if it's due to his corner or his side or his team or himself, because this is the fight that every fan of boxing and every fan of the heavyweight division would like to see.
But how can you say with a straight face that you would feel that Deontay's not ducking AJ if he doesn't sign for this fight?
Well, as you suggested too, Bill, many times, that maybe he's got some real bad advice coming from his side, and
but you said
call some bluff. But
you've said a million times. You've said a million times yourself. At the end of the day, it's up to the fighter, and he's been talking smack, pounding his chest, telling us all when we want to listen that everybody's afraid of him. And Deontay won't want to fight him, and he's scared. He's scared. He's this, he's that. And now all of a sudden he's got an opportunity. We're not talking about an offer of $50. We're not talking about an offer of $1 million or even $5 million. We're not even talking even $6 million, which is 3 times what he made in his last fight. We're talking the minimum, the first offer of 12.5. He could make up to $16-20 million. Why wouldn't he step in the ring? I'm sorry, but he would be clearly ducking Anthony Joshua if he doesn't fight him next, because he doesn't have the opportunity. If he's not careful, Sal, this fight may never happen. I'm telling you.
Well, you look at how many ways this fight could fail and not happen, and I'll tell you, it's there. Those possibilities are right in front of us, and they're right in front of him. So that's why I'm saying, in my heart of hearts, I believe that we're going to wake up one day next week and we're going to hear that it's signed, sealed, and now they're going to deliver. It's too big. Like you're suggesting, it's too big of an opportunity for Deontay Wilder to let slip by him. And I think he's smarter than that. I know that he feels he's the best in the world, and I think it's just a matter of doing the finagling and the dance and this, that, and the drama. But I do feel that he knows in the reality of what's in front of him that he's going to go through with this fight, and he's going to sign, he's going to make it happen. And I like I said, I think we're going to wake up one day next week, and that's what's going to be said.
Well, I think you
and
should.
If not,
I think
I'm
you
going to
should
be very disappointed.
Well, I think you should wake up from reality, right? I think you're sleeping right now. But the truth of the matter is that I think what's going to happen, and this is typical with a bully and with a loudmouth, fraud. I think that as soon as Team Anthony Joshua comes and has to start negotiating with Povetkin and they make that fight, that's when we're going to hear from your boy Deontay Wilder. He's going to come out, see, I told you he doesn't want to fight me. He's talking to me. He's this, he's that. Listen, the WBA, as much as I can't stand them and as much as I don't respect the way they have all these titles and all their BS, they actually are trying, not knowingly, because I don't think they're too swift, but the WBA is actually expediting this fight, because the truth of the matter is, Sal, that they are the ones that are putting pressure on this fight to happen now rather than later. Because if this fight doesn't happen now, what the chain of events that's going to take place is that the WBA is forcing AJ to fight their mandatory. The IBF will have theirs next. Then the WBO, and then, oh, by the way, the WBC is going to sprinkle in a mandatory for Deontay, and that's going to be due by the end of this year. So the truth of the matter is the window for this fight is closing rapidly to take place this year or even early next year. I told you not just you, Sal, but I told everyone that I had predicted that this fight would unfold and take place early 2019, if at all. Now, I don't even know if the fight will take place early 2019. I think its only chance to get this fight to happen is now. So if the fight doesn't happen now, we may not see this fight. This may turn out to be a Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe situation, Sal.
Well, and if that's going to be the case, then like I said earlier, I'm going to be very, very disappointed, because this fight is the big fight. It's going to be one of the biggest heavyweight championship fights that we have seen in a very, very long time, and they got to make it happen. And I want to feel in my heart of hearts it's going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see next week what it brings, but or over the weekend for that matter. And I have to say that Deontay Wilder knows what's at stake, and he's going to jump on the bit, and it's going to be announced. And I think everything's going to be okay in England and the United States when these guys get in the ring.
Yeah. Well, like I keep saying, AJ has the options. Deontay does not.
He does.
Deontay could stand. Listen, the biggest thing that Deontay could do right now, if he doesn't fight Anthony Joshua, to truly prove who the best heavyweight on the planet is, because that's what's at stake, okay? Forget the money. That's what's at stake. But what Deontay, the only thing, Anthony Joshua has the advantage right now and all the options to continue fighting and make buku dollars, $20 million every time he steps into the ring, okay? And at the end of a couple of years, he's going to be a very wealthy man, all right? Deontay Wilder, if he does not take the fight with AJ, is he going to be wealthy? Yeah, he's a millionaire. That's wealthy. But he's not going to have Anthony Joshua type money unless he fights Anthony Joshua at least once. Instead, Deontay has two choices. Fight Anthony Joshua now, agree on a fight purse or whatever, split, whatever they're going to want. Hey, my prediction, what did I say? I say the split should be, what was it, 20?
60-40.
No. I think that 20%, what was it? I think I said 45-35, and then the rest goes to the winner. 45% to AJ, 35% to Deontay, and then the winner gets the rest as a bonus. That's the most. Hey, that's the fair way. You want to go? Then put your money where your mouth is. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that Deontay Wilder has two choices if he wants to make big bucks. He could either fight sign the deal, whatever the deal ends up being agreed to, keep the negotiations open, make a deal. They're not even trying to make the deal, which gives me reason to believe that they really don't want the fight, which doesn't make sense, because the only other option that Deontay has is to break the real Marciano record, the one that matters in the heavyweight division. What Floyd did is a 50-0, big deal. But with Deontay, he's in a position to be able to legitimately break Rocky Marciano's record. So Deontay can continue to do that. But let's say he needs those 10 more fights, at a rate of $2 million, even $3 million a fight. Let's just say he would make the argument that he fights 10 more fights at $3 million apiece. He makes $30 million. Even if he fights 3 fights a year, which he hasn't done, it's going to be more than 3 years from now to make $30 million. He could make $30 million fighting Anthony Joshua in 2 fights. So
we know that, yeah.
So I think it all matters to whatever it matters to Deontay. Does he want history, or does he want money, or does he want both? Because like I said last week, Sal, he's in a position to obtain both if he fights Anthony Joshua and wins. If he beats Anthony Joshua twice, then he deserves to pick any slug that he wants to for 8 more fights, and not only beat the best guy that's out there now in terms of the heavyweight division, at least in my opinion, but then also break the record. He's in a much better. He's being advised wrong. His people are misadvising him, Sal.
Well, we thought that for a long time now, but like I said, let's see how this pans out. We've got another week, and I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised, because I think this is bigger than what he's got to realize this. He's got to know. And you know what? I think you hit it on the head. I think it's going to be about $16 million, and maybe he'll get 40% of the rights, or of the gate. And I think that's going to be it. But I love your break of the purse with the Joshua getting a larger one and the winner getting the leftovers. This way they could make it equal, or whatever they could do. It sounds like a real neat way to divvy it up.
Well, the question is who would be willing to do that? What I had what I suggested was when I was breaking that down. We were actually talking about this last week. I said that the way it should work, or on Monday, 40% to AJ, 35% to Wilder, and then the winner gets a 20% bonus. First of all, 40% and 35% of the numbers that they're going to generate is substantial money. And then to have a 20% on top of that going to the winner, to me, a fighter that would sign that gets, whether they win or not, gets all the credit in the world, because they're putting it on the line, Sal. It really, you can't. If you know that 20% of the numbers that we're talking about is on the line if you win, you're not quitting. You're not going to not have a good training camp. Think of all the ramifications that are involved when you have that much money going to one side if they should win, so that the playing field is totally even. I love 40-35, 40% to AJ, 35 to Wilder, 20% to the winner. Shut everybody up and take that deal. What do you think?
I think it's great. I mean, you can even look at it, hey, 50% to AJ, 25% to Wilder, with the other 25% left up for grabs. And Wilder wins, it's a 50-50 fight. If AJ wins, it's a 75-25 split. So, you have a heck of an incentive to pull all stops and let it all out. So, I could see. I love your mixture, but just to make it easier for everyone to understand, if we break it down 50-25 with the other 50 with the other 25 up for grabs, that could be a 50-50 deal when all is said and done.
I just think that 40%, 35 makes both fighters feel it's kind of even. Deontay, that's kissing Deontay's ass. Hey, here you are, you're giving up 5% less, even though you're not a draw. Truth of the matter is Deontay Wilder is not a draw compared to Anthony Joshua. But the 20% winning bonus, man, that's
Bill, I love that. I'd like to see that across the board for
all fights
between you and I, because that's what I always said. It's prize fighting. Have the incentive to win the majority or the substantial amount of the purse by your performance that evening and being a victor. So, it's prize fighting, boys and girls. Prize fighting. You fight for the prize.
Unfortunately, today they don't do that. But speaking of which,
that's beautiful.
We have the trivia question. Nobody's gotten it, and nobody's even come close. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you guys a hint today. Because I want to give away another copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. So all you got to do to get your very own copy is to answer today's trivia question correctly. Now, the way you got to answer it is you got to be the first one to email me the correct answer. And the email address, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. If you're the first one to answer this question correctly, you will win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. So I'm going to read the question, and then I'm going to read it again with the hint. All right? It's a who am I question. Before my 20th birthday, I beat 4 world champions and lost to another one, who I eventually defeated a month past my 20th birthday. Who am I? You know this answer. Email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. One more time with the hint. One more time with the hint. I mean the hint. Before my 20th birthday, I beat 4 world champions and lost to another one, who I also defeated just 1 month past my 20th birthday. Who am I? Here's the first hint, boys and girls. This guy, first of all, I'll give you 2 hints. All right, I'll give you two hints. I'm feeling festive. All right.
You are.
He's the first hint is he's very well known. This is a very well known fighter. Okay. And my second hint, which was really going to be the hint for today, is he fought in multiple divisions, multiple weight classes. So knowing that, before my 20th birthday, I beat 4 world champions and lost to another one who I also defeated just 1 month past my 20th birthday. Who am I? It's a well-known fighter, and he fought in multiple divisions. If you're the first one to email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com, you win the prize. Hey, listen, boys and girls. Again, I apologize for the unforeseen absences that we had this week. That was totally my fault. We will be back next week. I do have some special programming next week that we will talk about, but I will be here on Monday. So make sure you enjoy the fights this weekend. There's a lot of them. And make sure you tune in right here Monday morning for my post-fight show, specifically on the big fights we talked about today. Monday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.